Hey there, and happy birthday from the Machine of Nonsense. It's a special Oscars mini episode. We're coming to you live from outside the Dolby Theater in sunny Los Angeles. We're on the red carpet with Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet, and who else is here, Kayla?
I don't know his last name. Troy? His name is Troy, right?
Troy, yeah, all those Troy. Oh, Troy Kotsur, yes, the gentleman from Coda. That we just saw him.
Will? We got Will Smith.
We got Will. Yeah, we got them all. They're going to be coming in, jumping in on the pod, I'm sure. You may have noticed I said happy birthday at the beginning of this pod. That's right, we are celebrating a birthday. It's not only Oscars Day, but it's March 27th. That's right. It's Quentin Tarantino's birthday, everyone. We're wishing him a happy birthday. No. It's my co-host, my lovely co-host, Kayla. It's her birthday. So everyone out there, wish her a happy birthday when you're hearing this, even if it's not today. She deserves it.
No disrespect on QT. We can wish him happy birthday, too.
Yes, we can. And yes, we do. So I thought we should have a little bit of a conversation. The Oscars are going to be here in about 4 hours. By the time this hits, maybe it'll be 3 hours. And I wanted to compare and contrast last year's Best Pictures nominees with this year's and kind of do a power rankings for ourselves. We've each ranked the 10 movies of this year from 10 to 1, our least favorite to our favorite Best Picture nominee. We've watched them all. We've, I think, enjoyed most of them, at least. We'll see. And let's start by comparing them to last year. As weird a year as it has been, really the last couple years with COVID and everything else, I felt like last year was a pretty strong year overall for movies. I dug them. Here they are from last year. We had Judas and the Black Messiah. We had Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of Chicago 7 and The Father. And then this year we had Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. They expanded the amount of movies eligible for Best Picture this year, so we have more. But what would you say as far as, what was the stronger year, Kayla?
Real quick, you said they expanded the amount of nominees that they can have, but the amount of eligibleness was less, right? Like the time frame was less.
Well, yeah, it is a contracted time frame because of how everything happened. This is the latest the Oscars have ever been as well.
Right. Right.
So yeah, everything was changed up quite a bit. Hopefully, going into next year, it's going to be back to normal in the world, but also in the movie world. So yeah.
As a specific power, I believe was a term that you used, and I think that the previous year, last year's nominees, the stories definitely did have more meaningful power, if you will, behind them. This year, some of the nominees I think are just kind of light. There's nothing very extravagant or huge takeaways from them. Sure, I might have enjoyed them, but there wasn't anything super stand out to me in many of them.
I think I'm in a similar boat to you on that. I mean, there's more movies. I think last year, how I like to think of it is recommending other people, if I'm going to recommend my mom to watch something or a friend or something, and I want to say, everyone has different tastes, but there are some universal kind of things that people go to the movies for. And I think last year maybe was a little bit better in terms of that. There were some powerful stories. I think that's, what you were saying, like with the Trial of Chicago 7 or Judas and the Black Messiah, some kind of like universal
Promising Young
ideas.
Woman, Sound of Metal, Minari. They're all very powerful in their story, their main storylines.
Yeah. I think a couple missed the mark maybe this year, but still there's a lot of good stuff, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I might have had more movies last year that I would say like I would rewatch or I would recommend someone else to maybe check out last year.
And as I have realized about myself, I don't like watching movies about people who are pieces of shit. And that's what a lot of these movies this year are about. They're about just shit people, and I don't dig it.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, looking at it from that context, I mean, maybe Mank, but I don't know. Like, he was all even like cast in a pretty positive light overall. A lot of big, like charismatic people last year. This year, yeah, a lot of evil, a lot of evil, evil hearts, evil men,
shit people.
Yeah. So that's interesting. It was a theme, and I think once we get definitely into my top 10, I think the stories that left me with a better taste in my mouth, kind of rose to the top for me, because it was a lot of like, ooh, feeling a little dirty after several of these.
Yes.
So what do you say to get into our top 10s?
Sure, we can do that.
All right, let's start at 10. You can start it off, then I'll go, and then I'll give my 10, and then maybe I'll do my 9, you do your 9, and we'll go like that.
Okay. I did a little bit of a weird thing here at the bottom of my list. I put, for number 10, I have Drive My Car. I think it's a little too highbrow for me. I think that it's probably, like, film-wise, some things were done in it that maybe I quite didn't understand. I enjoyed the story, but it's a slow burn. I don't know how much I should say.
Well, we don't want to spoil it. Yeah, no, I dig it. I almost agree with a lot of those points. At 10, I had West Side Story. It felt, I told you when we finished watching this one, I enjoyed the music, I enjoyed the costumes, and like the energy and stuff. But really, it just felt like unneeded in a lot of ways. It's one of those classic tales or whatever. It's Romeo and Juliet, but and then it's been done. The West Side Story thing has been done on the stage and the screen. And this one's basically just a shot-for-shot remake with new, actors, maybe more culturally appropriate actors, which is a nice thing, but... Yeah,
we need to get rid of this story. Stop remaking it. It's out of touch.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it doesn't... Yeah, it's not a new story. It doesn't kind of frame anything any better. And yeah, it's kind of problematic in a lot of ways, but... just as if you take it on just the music and the colors and stuff, it's nice enough. But yeah, the subject matter, the story, it's number 10 for me.
It's my number 9, West Side Story. But like you said, it's got a lot of colors and the music is nice. It did do some fun stuff with that bright pop of colors and costumes, and that's why I chose it, and a few of these over Drive My Car. Drive My Car didn't have something very different, or like I said, it was kind of different, but it didn't have something really eye-dropping or eye-catching to me, whereas some of these visually at least did.
Yeah, and that matters. That matters, especially when we're talking about a 3-hour movie,
Yeah.
So speaking of 3-hour movies, The Power of the Dog is my number 9. I will caveat this whole thing with I think there are some real dynamite performances in this movie. I really, really like Benedict Cumberbatch performance as well as Cody Smith-McPhee. Kind of the two leads really in the everyone else in my opinion really takes a backseat to those two characters, and that makes sense in the story, but it's still got a lot of other nominations. But it's Kayla used the term slow burn. It's one of those very pretty to look at too. It's set in a very like rugged cowboy type.
It's like Montana or something.
Yeah, and it captures that really well. There's a lot of long shots, just like here staring at mountains, here staring at these plains and horses and things of that nature. And it's pretty, but the subject matter is a little troubling. It's one of those kind of how I mentioned earlier where it leaves you pretty much with a bad taste in your mouth, even if maybe a type of justice is served at the end. It just left me feeling bad, and the performances didn't really do it for me. That was my number 9.
My number 8, because I've already said my number 9, I'll go on to 8, is also Power of the Dog. I agree with everything that you've said. I think the subject matter is important and could have been really intriguing. I feel like some of what they did soured it. Like, honestly, you mentioned Benedict Cumberbatch and Cody McPhee. There's another name.
Cody Smith-McPhee, yeah.
Cody Smith-McPhee. They were both really good. And honestly, if you cut out some of Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons, I think you could have had a more solid, grounded story. I didn't like this movie. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, Benedict was a piece of shit, but he did it well.
But it was pretty, and like I said, I do think that there was some important stuff in there about the subject matter, so that's why it's number 8 for me.
Yeah, definitely. And it is an adaptation from a book, so, they could only play, I guess, probably so much with the events and the characters and everything else, so, you're left with kind of what it is. Speaking of kind of evil characters, Nightmare Alley is my number 8. Bradley Cooper, I don't know if I'd say he's similar to the character of Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog, but they both have some very evil tendencies. And
Power of the Nightmare Alley might have been a fitting name title.
Yeah, and I don't like Bradley Cooper's performance as much as I liked either of the two leads in The Power of the Dog. What I really liked about Nightmare Alley was like the production design. Half of the movie takes place in a carnival, like a traveling carnival, turn of the century, like early 1900s, and then it shifts the second half of the movie to like an Art Deco type city, and the set design and like the costuming and just all of it, like it really, there's a certain style to all of it. I think they really hit on that, and there's some good performances too. Like Cate Blanchett's pretty. Yeah,
the ladies are great in it.
Yeah. I think the female characters did pretty well overall, and they got a lot. They get a lot to work with. Bradley Cooper for me was just okay. And I kind of like where the story ended. Just, it's another one of those, the bad guy kind of maybe got some justice handed to them. But overall, I mean, this is a movie I was like super hyped for, and it didn't hit the mark completely.
Guillermo del Toro.
It's a Guillermo del Toro, right? So one of my favorite, writer directors, and it's not his best, in my opinion, but still, really good. Worthy of number 8 on my list, I guess.
It's number 7 on my list. We're going back
going
and
up the
forth
ladder.
here.
Yeah, that's funny.
I agree with everything you said. The set design is very nice. They set for a scene and a theme and an era, and they hit it. He's a piece of shit, so I didn't enjoy spending all my time with shit humans.
Yeah. A little bit lighter fare, even though it takes place in a civil war. Number 7 for me was Belfast. This is a semi-autobiographical take from Kenneth Branagh of his childhood in Northern Ireland. Black and white. The little boy. Jude Hill, thank you. I was going to call him Norman Hill. Buddy, yeah, the character. He's missing a nomination as he's
on my snub list.
Yeah, I mean he was really, really good, and it was fun following his, it's a traumatic time in his life, but he just goes through it with a lot of energy and kind of happiness. He's his first love, and he's learning lessons from his pop, his grandfather, and
Kieran.
Kieran.
He's nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah. Really, really good, and deservedly so. Best Supporting, I think. Best Supporting Actor for him. Yeah. Overall, just a really, really good movie. This is one of those non-3-hour movies. This one clocks in about an hour and 40 minutes. It moves. It's got some family drama in that. It all in the backdrop of this warring time. They don't dwell on the conflict, I think, in a good way. I like that it's not.
It's from a child's point of view. I think it really captures being a child, really, really well. Not quite understanding what's going on. My parents are kind of fighting. She cries every time she gets this letter. We get it once a month.
Yeah.
Dad's fighting for money. There's weird stuff going outside. Peer pressure. Girlfriends. Studying. It's a beautiful tale. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Kieran Hines is, I just thought of the name. Yeah. Really, Mance Rayder from Game of Thrones, for you Game of Thrones fans. Yeah, he was a standout for me. The little boy was fantastic as well, and kind of gave a little insight into something I didn't really know about, the war in Northern Ireland at that time. So, cool little movie. Number 7 for me.
On to my number 6. I have Don't Look Up. I enjoyed this movie, but it leaves a bad taste in my mouth because Leonardo DiCaprio is a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit person in this, and this is just the year of men who do shitty things in these movies. Unfortunately, that's just how it was depicted, and I didn't like that whole major plot side of it, so it ends up on number 6. It's a little weird, but I enjoyed the weird, cocky, cultural reference stuff.
Yeah, it's an Adam McKay. He's always going to kind of push the envelope on what's parody and what is real life and all that. And yeah, Leo's not a good human in that movie. My number 6, this is one of the biggest differences we've had so far. Drive My Car was my number 6. It's a long movie. It's 3 hours long. It's in Japanese mostly, but there are several other languages spoken in this movie. So if you don't know it going in, it's one of those, it's hard for me to recommend for your average, movie goer or whatever, because it's a foreign language film. Yeah, but I really liked, I didn't know where it was going. You don't see the title card till 40 minutes in. So there's almost a prequel. The first 40 minutes are almost a prequel to the story. But there's just several moments in it that really like the cigarettes out of the car, the moonroof, all the stuff in the college where I think it's a college where they are practicing their lines in like 4 different languages, including sign language, and just like these really impressive people doing. It's a small study on acting, like within a movie. It's really interesting. There were Uncle Vanya, the play is like a kind of theme in the entire movie. So it's really meta. It's got a lot of little meta elements, like plays within movies, within, all of that. Yeah. So I think it's definitely for people who are interested in the stage, interested in filmmaking, and everything else. I'm personally dipping my toes more into foreign films where I can. Ever since like Parasite kind of opened that up in a big way for me. So I liked it, but it's not the easiest watch. It's not the easiest to like recommend.
Yeah. My extra 2 cents about that is because I did honestly really enjoy it. For me, it's just too long. It's just, and we've had this conversation. I don't know what I would cut out of it. The story is very good, and I like all parts in it. It just is long.
Yeah, you mentioned it almost might work better as like a series, like a limited series or something.
There's if I could have had like 3 1-hour little things, I would have enjoyed it more, I think.
Yeah, and it might flow a little better. It might work a little better. But that's Drive My Car for all you cinemaphiles out there. Number 6.
Number 5 for me is Dune. Another long one. Beautiful to look at. Totally like imaginative. I love something that can just take you to the world that they've built, and I feel that about Dune. Dune, on the other hand, where it was super long, I feel like I got nothing out of it, really. Like, it just was like set up, end.
It's half a movie, really.
It's half a movie. It really is. I can feel it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Dune is one that's it's coming up on my list here, but it's grown in my estimation over time. I think when I was leaving that movie, I felt a little hollow because of the fact that it's not a full movie. It's not it's part 1 of a larger tale.
Underwhelmed.
Yeah, but as
agree.
I've put more thought into it and like read everything around it, kind of read into some of the lore and stuff, it's grown in my.
I'd love to watch it again.
Yeah, definitely. So number 5 for me was Licorice Pizza. Just a fun movie. Honestly, I enjoyed my time. The more I think of it, sometimes like there's a little problematic subject matter. Everyone has said it, like there's a central kind of relationship in the middle of the film that's a little odd, let's say, and take that for what you want. But overall, it's just kind of a fun period piece, set in like a real exciting time in America, and the music's a lot of fun. The characters, both of the main leads I think this is both of their first roles ever in film. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, as well as Alana Haim from the band Haim, who she's normally known for her music, but did a fantastic job. Both of the leads, I think, did a really good job for not being, actors.
Experienced, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember like leaving the theater and saying like, oh, that was fun. I had a good time at the movie, and I couldn't say that about a lot of other ones.
Exactly. I felt more joyful during this one, which is what I look for in movies. Yeah. It's my number 4, Licorice Pizza. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's a little more carefree. Like you said, it explores an interesting time in Hollywood with young kids just trying to creatively make money. or figure out what they're going to do with their lives. And there is some like moral, ethical relationship discomfort. But it's not too bad. I don't know if that's okay to say.
Yeah, it's always tough. It's like it's bad if you you know.
I don't know. I don't know what happens, what doesn't happen. I don't know.
Yeah, who's to? We're not the judges, you know, right? So, so my number 4 was King Richard. The story of the Williams sisters, but framed by their father, Richard Williams, played by Will Smith. Really, really enjoyed this one. It's if I can say anything negative, it is very like that formulaic kind of sports movie. It's that like any sort of like autobiographical sports movie. It hits all the same marks. Like, oh, near the middle, there's some adversity that is faced, you know, and that type of thing. And hey, you know, spoiler alert, they end up doing all right with themselves. But I gotta say, this is definitely one of, I think, only, if I'm thinking about it now, 2 movies that I shed a tear at, especially during the end credits and everything else, when you kind of for the first time you get to see some archival footage of the actual Richard Williams and the actual Williams sisters, and it seems at least that the movie's pretty true to their life and everything else. I'd love to know exactly what they feel about the movie, because it is an odd choice to take, you know, their accomplishments and everything else and frame it as very much dependent on their father, but it works, at least in terms of a movie. And if I would hope that they gave their 100% on it, because it puts them in a fantastic light too. I mean, like everything they had to go through and work for, and how passionate they were about their careers and their sport and everything. And just dynamite performances. John Bernthal as a supporting role was fantastic. Will
He's on
Smith,
my snub list too.
Yeah, and honestly, both of the girls playing the Williams sisters, they didn't get, in my opinion, enough screen time to really stand out. But when they were on screen, they did really well. So King Richard was my number 4.
On to my number 3. I have Belfast. Eric's already mentioned it a little bit. My little 2 cents that I'll just elaborate on a little bit is I really feel like they took that kid. He was great. He stole every scene he was in. Mm-hmm. He was just charming and charismatic. A delight. He was a delight to watch. A struggle with all his things that he was seeing happen in the world to the people he cares about, but it's in black and white. It's that kind of gives you like some type of solemn feeling to it. I mean, there's lots of violence happening as well, so it's it was a delightful film. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's even wild to think that like that kid grew up to be Kenneth Branagh, like an immensely successful actor, producer, everything.
Didn't mention June. I'm sorry.
Judi Dench.
Thank you,
Dame Judi Dench.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, nominated also in a supporting actress role as well.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was only peppered in, but like once again, like stole every scene she was in a lot of way, like with Kieran Hines.
Yeah. Great
married couple. Great old married couple.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 3 was Dune. I mentioned it's kind of only grown in my estimation as I've let it breathe a little bit and thought about it more. Really a beautiful movie. Probably the most, like, I don't know, Marvel of, if we want to use that term. I mean, it's a big, if you like Marvel movies and Lord of the Rings and any of those big budget fantasy, action, sci-fi type movies. It hits all of those beats.
I do enjoy those.
Right. And star power too. I mean, Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya and
Brolin.
Josh Brolin.
Momoa.
Oscar Isaac. Yeah, I mean,
I don't Skarsgård. Creepy dude.
Yeah, Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah, I mean, just all down the line, it's star packed, and
it is.
And they get a lot out of it, and it's beautiful. I listened to an interview recently with Hans Zimmer. He like created instruments out of nothing, out of like scrap metal and stuff to just like invent music for it. The sound and the music's fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful to look at. It really is.
So yeah, number 3, Dune for me.
Number 2 for me, King Richard. When I first heard about King Richard, I was salty AF because, like Eric said, it's like, why am I gonna watch a movie about Venus and Serena Williams' father? That seems so weird. Like, they're the Olympic athletes. But it makes sense. Watching it definitely did. That's the tone. That's exactly what they were going for. They hit it. It is a fantastic performance. It is inspirational and heartbreaking and heartwarming. Good stuff.
Yeah, really, really fantastic. Number 2 was my funniest movie out of these 10. It was number 1 for quite some time, up until very recently, but Don't Look Up. Despite Leo not being a good dude in this movie, I thought it was quite funny. Fantastic cast. I mean, from Jonah Hill and Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence was kind of the if Leo was the devil character, she was, the angel on the other shoulder in a lot of ways. Her interactions with Jonah Hill, like they anytime they were in the same scene was just so fun, just like antagonizing each other. And it's, it's also about an important issue, as a lot of these movies are, but it's all done in a parody fashion, but it's the meteor is climate change, folks.
Maybe I have some what do I want to call it? I watched this one almost the longest of Go.
Yeah.
So I feel like I might have been too harsh on it. Like, the only thing I can remember is just being super pissed about Leo's decisions to betray his family.
Right. I just thought it was funny. Overall, it was definitely the most like funny movie out of all of these. It kept that lighter tone in the face of like some pretty rough subject matter, And
I enjoyed a lot of that. I really did.
Yeah. So Don't Look Up was my number 2.
And there's one more movie left on both of our lists. Seems like it's got to be the same unless you're making stuff up.
I think it might be.
When you said this is the funniest movie on my list, I was like, what the fuck? What's number 1? He's going to say Coda for number 2?
Coda was quite funny.
Coda is number 1. It is just a fantastic, inspirational. I cried so much in this movie. It's educational, it's fun, it's funny. It's good. Watch it.
And it seems like it's finally getting some real like helium under it. I mean, like it seemed like for the longest time, The Power of the Dog was just like everyone's like, oh well, that's going to be best
Everybody
picture.
Everybody has Netflix,
right? Everyone's got Netflix. It's a critical darling. A lot of people watched it despite it being really long and everything else. And Coda's on Apple TV. And not as many people have seen it, I think, overall. But they need to. It's everything Kayla said. It's inspirational.
Coming of age story.
Yeah, and it hits. I said about King Richard how King Richard kind of hits all of those sport movie like beats. This does that in the same way of like a coming of age tale. But because of the uniqueness of the family that it's focused on, and kind of the uniqueness of the situations faced by the main character, the girl in the film. It's a little different. It's just a little unique in that sense to kind of break through from what could be just kind of a real by the numbers type family drama type movie.
Right. It's got that formula. It's so relatable. Like all those are. We all go through those things. The uniqueness that they add to it just adds comedy, quite honestly.
It does.
Like, it adds education, and it's they're deaf, if we hadn't made that clear. It just, I mean, it's eye-opening. I don't know personally anybody who's deaf, but obviously we're in communities where people are that you just don't even really pick up on those things, and this sheds some light to that.
But
they do it in such a, like, meaningful but lighthearted, comical way.
Just very normal. It feels very normal the way that they are living in society. They don't dwell on, they could have like really dwelled on, oh, look, they're struggling. Oh, they're having trouble communicating with these people and everything else. No, really, like for the most part, their lives are going pretty well. Like they have figured out how to like exist in a society and if not thrive, but like do well enough, like find thrive in their own way and in their community. And it's just like what they're needing is just more, you know, what they want to be a bigger part of the community. They want to just do a little bit better, and their daughter kind of wants to do it in a different way. She wants to grow up and maybe grow apart, but at the end they figure it out. They do, and it's one where you leave it for all the other movies where we left maybe with a bad taste in our mouth. I mean, this is the ultimate just like feel good, inspirational type feeling movie where 100% I would recommend this to anyone.
I'd watch more. I could watch more of this.
Yeah, these people are
this
just...
This one could have been 3 hours.
Super. Yeah, and this is a movie that was like an hour and a half that could have been, 2.5, something like that. So yeah, can't recommend Coda enough. I think I love hearing that it's like has potential to actually win the award. Yeah, because I want to feel better about like the winner and everything else, and I'd feel so much better if Coda won than Power of the Dog or even like Belfast or there's other movies that I'd feel pretty good, but Coda's just a really good movie, real fun movie, and hilarious. It really is. Like you wouldn't think if you just hear it's a movie about a deaf family and their struggles and things of that nature, and a coming of age story with their daughter. You wouldn't think it would be funny necessarily, and it really is. It's all done very well. So glad that it ended up number one on both of that. That's
I loved
cool.
it. I'd watch this movie multiple times.
We mentioned a couple snubs. We mentioned, John Bernthal really deserved some kind of mention for King Richard.
Played Rick Macy.
Yeah, he was great. He did a fun little accent. It really like benefited from his already kind of interesting way of talking. John Bernthal's already got like an interesting like accent, and he just kind of played it up in this role.
For John, not always, but I feel like when I think about him in more of like a broken man. Mm-hmm. He's always playing like a broken man, and he is just like a rich, cheerful tennis guru. He
top
is
of his game.
He has got just like such a joy of life about him. That was really nice to see John do.
Yeah. And the little boy, Jude Hill from Belfast, definitely deserves a shout out. And I think just a movie in general, The Lost Daughter, it's up for Best Adapted Screenplay, but that's not Best Picture. And I think it's Maybe better than half the movies on
It's
this list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is way better than half the movies on this nomination list.
Yeah. So.
Green Knight would have been eligible, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I believe so as well. And that is one that we haven't seen, but I would love to. And I mean, Mike of the podcast really enjoyed it. I think Tomas did as well. Ryan and Aaron maybe did too.
I think just about everyone. I haven't really heard many people who've seen it who did not.
And going along with that, I believe, is Dev Patel.
Right.
That would have been worthy of nominee. Would The Last Duel have qualified too? It had to have. It wouldn't have qualified for the year before.
Yeah, you're right. I did not think of that at all. That is a good call. That movie deserves. There are movies that I would have rather have made my top 10 list of out of these. Yeah, and honestly, I think Spider-Man would have been fun. Like, now that I've seen all 10, I was reserving my judgment to see these 10 movies before I said, like, yeah, Spider-Man is definitely the most popular movie, like the most successful movie of. It might be the most successful movie of all time when it's all said and done. Who knows? But like, it was also just a really good movie, and like a part of it being just super successful and just working for so many people. I think that at least to be nominated for Best Picture, it's important to get those movies just because it's a Marvel movie, it's a comic book movie. Like, no, it's just a really
Still
good movie
fantastic.
That people really love, so
right. I mean, don't we all want a little more like wideness, variety in our like what is good?
Definitely. Yeah, like shitty male lead.
Not what I don't want every Oscar movie to be that. No.
Yeah, we have enough. So what do you think? What do you think's gonna win? Are we gonna get our wish with Coda? Are we gonna get our hearts broken?
I'm putting that into the universe. It's gonna be Coda. I'm putting it out there.
Hell yeah.
The right choice. It is the right choice.
I will feel very good. That's one of those where if it wins, I'm gonna be right there and like, yeah, hell yeah. And then shut the TV off and go to bed. If
entire fucking Oscar thing and Power of the Dog wins, I will be salty.
It'll be rough.
Be a salty dog.
It's got enough nominations. It's going to win stuff. I mean, like all 4 major actors are nominated. They've got Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst and Cody Smith-McPhee and Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, they're not gonna. They might sweep. They might sweep all those awards. And it's up for, I think, a total of 12. I think. So it's gonna do well.
Insane. Please, I am asking you, our listeners, our friends, our family. Someone tell me, what is good about that movie, Power of the Dog? I'm like sincerely asking because I'm not a film critic. I obviously have. If it makes me feel good, I like it. If it makes me feel bad, I don't like it. That's just how I work. So if somebody could like explain that to me a little bit better, I would be happy to listen.
Well,
like with. Patrick mentioned something. Patrick Pena, friend of the podcast, when we had him on, and he is a film creator. He has some insight on these things that I don't pick up on, and they really make me think when he says certain things. Like with Spider-Man, that movie only works because of the 15 movies that came before it. So how can you say it is the best movie? It only is because it has all that to work on. But on the other hand, like. It isn't a magical thing to be able to make that work. So I go both ways on how I feel of should it, shouldn't it, because of what it is made of. All of these different things. That's a challenge, and they did it. So I think it does deserve recognition, but
yeah.
I don't get Power of the Dog. I just don't get
it. Yeah. If you leave a 3-hour movie and you don't get it, it says something about that movie, I think. Yeah, but
signing up for film lit.
couldn't we all use some? Well, that was our Oscars mini episode. This'll hit right before the Oscars, 3/27. So listen to this first before you watch the Oscars. Maybe you got a DVR it or something. Let's all wish Kayla one last round of happy birthday. She's the best co-host anyone, and wife that anyone could ask for. Join us on social media as always. Go ahead and leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/machine of nonsense. This was your Oscars mini episode for Kayla. I'm your host, Eric. We're saying goodbye.
See you later.